QuickTake. I'm here with my co-host Nicholas Todd Everly. How you doing today?
Doing great, bro.
Okay, so today's topic for our QuickTake comes from a university named Georgetown Law School, and in this law school, two professors were recorded saying that in their class it was regularly that blacks had lower test scores than other students. What's your thoughts about this?
Racist.
So they were caught on a Zoom call. They were talking over Zoom, and I think it was supposed to be a private conversation because I don't know why you would say that if you didn't think it was private.
I think it was like you know how like when everybody leaves a call, because like I have a lot of Zoom meetings now. Everybody presses leave,
and then and there's a recording of it.
Yeah, and then people can still stay on,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe a kid was still recording like the lesson or whatever, you know, and then
Caught at the
he
end.
didn't leave and all that other stuff. So we need to get like a little stamp for all these podcasts of racist.
But Georgetown fired them, which is a great thing. It just sucks that like you single out the black students, and like I don't think you're at a law school and you should know that like minorities don't have the resources of other like white Caucasian students.
Yeah,
they don't have the resources, so it's not there for them. Like these Caucasian students had access to private school, they had access to tutors, in which these African American students don't. Which is like something that I felt about in my like college experience in my undergrad. It's so crazy that like it's easy to categorize people, but you don't know the reason behind it.
Yeah, it's like these guys had to like grind to get where they're at, and you can't just be shaming them. It's like, dude, they're there, they're busting their butts, you know. And then if they still pass, they pass. They'll be like pointing out their race and all that.
The white students are better than the blacks. So
don't be doing that, you know. And with this, you know, there was two of them, and I guess the second one got fired, right?
Yeah, so both of them got fired. One made the comment saying that like, oh, I hate to say it, but in most of my classes, the blacks test scores aren't as higher than other races, or the bottom half of my test scores were blacks, and the other teacher didn't say anything. He just said like, mm-hmm, and then they both got fired.
That's gotta suck though. Like, okay, so imagine.
It was like this podcast where like you were saying some crazy stuff, and I was just like, yeah. And then I get fired for it too.
Yeah, you know?
It's like I didn't even say anything.
I can't imagine, like, I don't know, like, we don't know the relationship between the two professors, if they're just coworkers. Like, just imagine, like, you know, your coworker was saying some racist stuff, but you just didn't have the time and energy that day to like deal with it and kind of like point them out, because like I would imagine after a whole lesson you're just like,
dead.
oh my God, like, yeah, these guys are doing this. I'm like,
yeah, I'm not even paying attention,
you know, and it ends up getting fired for it. You know, that's insane. But I don't know, like,
for me, it's like the teacher to say something like that is super insensitive, and I get like everybody wants to be treated the same, but the circumstances are not the same for every student. You know, these white students probably have their whole school paid for by mommy and daddy, and these African American students, like, they probably have a second job, they probably like do other things to help pay for their college, whereas that takes away time from studying, takes some time for like prep courses. And it's easy to say that the whites are smarter than the blacks, but that's not the case. The blacks just don't have as many resources. They don't have the time just because they're having to have other fulfillments outside of school. That's the thing with me. So I work and go to school full time, and it's like I get like B's. Like my GPA is like a B average or whatever. But like if I go to school full time, that should be an A.
And I'm pretty sure you do know those students that do get like their whole everything paid for. You know, everything, all that, and all they have to really worry about is just school and not trying to get arrested.
Like no responsibilities, they just go to school full time.
Yeah, like I can imagine how like the difference between trying to juggle like your time, because I remember you telling me, like, we were just talking about this not too long ago, how trying to juggle your time and where your mindset goes throughout the whole day, you know, especially trying to go to school. When you learn something new, you try to retain that information, but still at the same time do a job that sometimes doesn't even have anything to do with what you're learning that day. You know,
I bet if you take like a survey or like question these African American students, their life responsibilities are way higher than the white
Yeah.
students by responsibilities. Not to judge anybody, but that's probably just the case. Just because their grades are lower doesn't mean they're not as smart. It's just that they don't have the time or resources to get them there
Yeah.
as these white kids do. And the tutors, all that, like it adds up time. And, and like the private school is a big thing too. Like like I tell people I went through a public school education, and we live in Scottsdale, which is like it's unheard of. Like all these people like we live around, they all went to charter schools and private schools.
Some ghetto kids up
We
in here.
went through the public education.
And I passed.
We're still here. We're still here.
We living, bro. We're drinking. I'm not even gonna name it because we might get sued.
So yeah, so when I talk to like my coworkers and stuff, they're like, "Oh yeah, I went to this charter school, I went to this public school. Oh, my kids are here. They don't go to public school; they go to these private schools." I was like, "Oh, I went to the whole public. I went to the public school system my whole life. I don't really know nothing else."
I didn't even go to college, and I'm here. That just shows though, like there are multiple ways to be able to get to where you need to go.
Yeah,
Me myself, I could never see myself going to law school. Like I chased after a dream I felt I had a passion in. So and
yeah.
that passion didn't need require me to go to college. So I'm here now and I'm loving my life. So
It just sucks that like being in the public school, I feel like we always say that there's so much talent in the public school that just gets overlooked, or people aren't just pushed towards their careers. They're pushed in a certain direction that's probably not best for their future just because the jobs are there.
one thing I always see is kind of like how that would probably explain some of this is what's their at home living like? What's their
Yeah,
home life like, you know? And that's why like I would see like a lot of like kids from we grew up with, like I'm blessed that my family was stable. I'm
yeah,
blessed that they taught me the things I know today and they pushed me and drove me to where I need to go. I am grateful for that.
yeah,
And I don't think I would be here if I didn't have that. And I think of all sometimes our other classmates that didn't have that, and where they are now compared to us, I'm just like, if they were just taught those same morals, or if they had their parents, or if they had different lifestyles growing up, where they would be. And kudos to the ones that did grow up with the like a rough home life and still are successful today. I give you guys fucking a
yeah,
big ass round of applause, man. So that's what I'm saying, like with this, when it comes to this stuff right here, you can't just think of their academic life, it's their whole life in general. And that's how it goes with like work life too. Somebody could be pissed off and all that shit, and it's just like, okay, yeah, work sucks, but I'm pretty sure their at home life isn't where it needs to be, and they brought that into work and they're all pissed off and shit. So
yeah.
that has a bigger major play in what people's lives are.
We always say that like we don't take like our parents for granted. Like I'm super grateful for them. Like I want to be here. Like you said, I want to be here with where I am today without them.
Mm.
And we're super grateful that like a lot of other kids didn't have that
Yeah.
that stability, and you do see like that's where like the rails kind of go off the tracks.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just super rough. Like just thinking back to these high schools, like you were taking the bus every day with like all the bus people. How was that? Like
So that was really cool, and just really, I'm really grateful that I went to a public school because I grew up with a very diverse group of kids.
yeah,
I grew up with like some of the smartest kids to like the lower academic kids. But like I said, like everybody had a different background, and that really introduced me to everyone's not the same as me. That's one thing I kind of grew up, when I was a little kid, like third grade. I assumed everybody had their parents. I assumed everybody's, had
yeah,
parents had a good job, and all that other stuff. But it wasn't until like I actually met these kids, like, oh, I can't afford that. They would get like native clothing every year. I got that too.
yeah,
But
yeah. The tribal clothing
the
stuff.
tribal clothing,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
giving like these big old Shaq shoes, bro.
No, because I think your parents used to be able to pick the size, and your parents would just guess your size because it used to come like 6 months later or whatever.
They're like, you're
And
growing to it. You're
yeah,
growing
you'll
to
grow into it. I
it.
remember having some big fans like I didn't. it's gonna take a couple years for me to grow into these.
It's like get him in elementary, barely wear him in junior high.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, like it's I'm really blessed that I grew up with that, and that's something that like I'm not too sure. I can't say on like the kids who went to private school because I'm pretty sure they learned their stuff there.
Yeah.
It's just might be harder because you went to when you were younger. You went to like little
Like Red Sands.
yeah Red Sands
But
yeah
it was also, I was like on a reservation. So,
yeah yeah. But that wasn't like on the
that sounds like Scottsdale. Just,
yeah.
so yeah. It
That
was just smaller classes, but that was about it. We just got a
yeah
little bit more 101.
yeah
But you know, like I kind of realized that like my parents were a little older than other parents. Like, but as a little kid, you don't realize these things. Like as I like finally in high school, it finally hit me like, oh, my parents are like a little bit older, like 10 years older than most parents.
yeah
And it's like they're a little bit more mature, and you know, uh parents that are younger, you know, like they're more free willing, like they're more loose with the rules and stuff. So I used to go to like the Cody's house, and Cody used to do like just be able to go walk out the door and stuff. But if I were to walk out the door, it's like, where are you going? Like, who you gonna go see? You got to be back at this time. And if you're not back, they'll be like, they'll be looking for you.
I remember. You remember those days, bro? But like, oh, I can't go out. My parents said I can't come over. Only way we can hang out is if you guys come over. I can't leave. You'd be up in the corner of the house, bro.
I remember like I used to like take you home from school sometimes, and you like, oh, we gotta go straight home.
Yeah.
Because my mom's expecting me.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, my mom, I didn't clean my room, bro. And she found my soda cans in my closet, bro. I need to get home, man. It's like, or you ever see like living in a small town? You ever grow up like you ever go somewhere and then like you're somewhere where you're not supposed to be, and your family or your mom or dad comes by, bro.
You're walking somewhere and they're like,
Yeah,
hey,
cruise
Chris.
by, they're like, they do that double take, bro. Oh, I hear it from my dad. I'd be going to the courts and I'd be like, I'd be going to some K. He'd drive by, he'd be like, hey, get home.
Didn't think you would.
He's just like, hey, get home. Just drives
That's crazy.
Oh, man. But yeah, it's just, you know, I'm really glad I grew up with that because
Yeah.
all that made me who I am today. And, you know, respect people's backgrounds. You know, and that's one thing these teachers should have done.
Yeah, like you gotta look into why. It's just not like these students are not smarter than the white students. Not as smart as the white students, it's just they have other priorities, have other responsibilities that these white students probably don't have.
Yeah.
And it's like saying like it's one of those things that like the Asians are smarter than like all the white students, and that's kind of like the norm in college. But the white students or the Asian students just have more discipline, to be honest. That's all it is. Like when I would go to the library, bro, they'd be there for like hours. And they'll be there all day. And I used to go into the library a lot, but like I was working in school full time, so like I would be burnt out like 3 hours max, and be like, all right, I got to end this now because I got to get ready for work in the morning.
Yeah.
And that was the only reason why. But they'll still be there and studying. Like,
yeah.
They're locked in. They're focused. They're locked in. And they're not smarter than anybody else. They're just more disciplined.
Yeah. And it's just like how
it's culture. It's culture,
how they grew up, you know.
Culturally.
Like that's how their people are, you know. And it's just, you got to respect people's.
So we'll end it there. Thank you for watching. Click like.